Hello folks, Luke's looking out for you, and today we're looking at energy monitoring and how it could save you more than just a few watts. Let's set one thing clear before we delve into this. Energy monitoring is not the same as smart metering. They often get used interchangeably, but they're actually two separate things. You see, smart metering is typically set up, or at least installed, by your energy supplier as a type of utility meter, for the purpose of providing more accurate billing for the energy that you use. However, it generally only monitors your overall usage, often in periods of 15 to 30 minutes, and gives limited visibility as to which individual appliance is in use, which can all be displayed on a small paired device. Energy monitoring, on the other hand, is mostly set up by the customer, i.e. you and me, all for the purpose of giving a more detailed understanding of our energy profile, our energy preferences, our inefficiencies, the biggest and smallest loads, and so on, all with the aim of reducing our consumption. By setting up a network of monitoring devices, it gives a much more granular approach to your energy data, offering real-time monitoring of all of its connected individual appliances. Think of smart metering a bit like the top of a monthly bank statement, except with energy instead of money, where it tells you the overall expenditure of that month. And then think of energy monitoring as the rest of that statement, where it tells you all the individual places that you spent that energy. With me so far? Smart metering, energy monitoring. Now that we're on the same page, it's probably important for me to mention that energy monitoring is more beneficial to commercial installations. It can be beneficial to domestic, but it's sort of a limited use. So for the purpose of this video, let's assume that we're talking about commercial installations. With that in mind, how is energy monitoring useful to us? Well, there are two major categories: cost and carbon. Let's start with cost though. I mentioned a moment ago that energy monitoring gives us a detailed understanding of not only how much energy we're using, but what appliances are in use in real time. So the first thing that comes to mind when we think of saving costs through energy monitoring is through the reduction of unnecessary energy consumption. For example, if it's a warm day and your energy monitor shows that you've actually had the heating set on low rather than off, you can save money by turning it off. Okay, so that was a simple example, but you get the idea. By having real-time feedback of energy data, we can discover areas where our energy consumption is being wasteful and then reduce accordingly. On a similar note, it's important to know when we are using our energy, as the price can change depending on when we use it. You see, your energy is sold to you in pence per kilowatt hour, but there are a bunch of factors that make up that price, including wholesale energy market rates, government taxes and levies like VAT and the climate change levy, supplier costs and margins, and finally, the important ones for our purposes, are D&O charges like DUOS and TUOS. The reason being is that those last two can affect the price of energy depending on the time of day that we use it. How come? Well, let me break it down. You see, the national grid is made up of two major parts: the transmission network, which is the large high voltage network that transports electricity long distances from generators to substations, and the distribution network, which are the local substations that take energy from the transmission network and into homes and businesses. Now, this system is big and complex and takes lots of money to run, so in order to reap back some of those costs, the district network operators, or the DNO, who are the ones that run the grid, have placed two different charges on energy, one being the distribution use of system charge, or DUOS charge, and the transmission use of system charge, or TUOS charge. With me so far? So the next important thing to know is that the grid is very much a balancing act between the generators and the consumers, with this balance becoming more difficult to manage during peak periods when everybody's using the grid, and it puts more stress on the distribution and transmission networks. So, in order to incentivize people to use quieter periods, the DNO offers varying rates of DUOS and TUOS depending on what time of day the energy is being used. For instance, let's say you're in a tariff band H00, which is dependent on your location, your load profile, business type, etc. Ultimately, it doesn't change though. And you consumed 10 kilowatt hours between 5 PM and 7 PM. Well, it would cost you £1.05 more than if you'd consumed that 10 kilowatt hours between 1 PM and 3 PM. And it would cost you £1.10 more than if you had consumed that same amount between 5 AM and 7 AM. So if you consumed this same amount every day throughout the year, excluding holidays and weekends, it would cost you over £250 more than if you had operated during a different time band. A medium-sized business could easily double that consumption during that time period, costing themselves about half a grand a year. So energy monitoring, with its real-time feedback, can tell us what machines and operations are happening during those peak hours, hopefully informing decisions about operational times. Because sometimes shifting production back by just 1 hour can save a lot of money. The next way it can help us save money is by highlighting faulty, inefficient, or out-of-date equipment. For example, if you have a series of industrial fridges, and you can see that one fridge in particular is pulling way more energy than the others, then this could mean there is a fault with that fridge. A broken seal, a faulty heatsink, dirty condenser coils, a whole host of reasons. If only we had a way of working out that fault ahead of time, but for the life of me, I can't think of it right now. Either way, it can tell you that something is wrong so that you can investigate and then repair or replace, possibly saving you money on unnecessary energy usage. But it could also save you money depending on what appliance has been identified as faulty. Sticking with our fridge example, let's say we found out that the condenser coil is broken. So the fridge is using lots of energy, but all the contents are getting warm. If you don't normally check on your fridges, well then congratulations, you're now the proud owner of a bunch of warm soggy stuff that should have been cold, potentially costing you a fair bit of money. So sometimes energy monitoring can help us to save energy, and therefore money, by replacing inefficient equipment, and sometimes it saves whatever that equipment is responsible for, i.e. food, data, safety, and so on. And that's not all it can help us with. With climate change being the ever-present terror that it is, governments are starting to wake up and realise there's no planet B. The UK government, for instance, has already implemented regulations regarding certain areas of carbon accounting. As of 2019, the UK government has implemented streamlined energy and carbon reporting, or SECR, mandating that large businesses that hit a threshold of criteria must report on their Scope 1 and 2 emissions, their total energy consumption, and any actions they are taking towards improving. So why is this relevant to energy monitoring? Well, because energy monitoring can help in the process of calculating your Scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. If you're unsure what Scopes 1, 2, and 3 are and how energy monitoring can help, here's a brief explanation. Scope 1 emissions. Scope 1 emissions are emissions that are directly released from an organization through things like gas boilers, generators, or company vehicles. And energy monitoring could be used to track how much energy these devices use and then cross-correlated with their fuel type to work out how much CO2 or CO2 equivalent has been released. Scope 2 emissions. Scope 2 emissions are emissions coming from indirect energy sources that are purchased, like your electricity if it comes from the grid. Now, similar to Scope 1, energy monitoring can help us to track the amount of energy, but this time coming in from outside sources. We can then cross-correlate that with data provided by the energy generators to work out our emissions. Scope 3 emissions. Scope 3 emissions are the tricky ones, because they basically encompass everything that isn't in Scopes 1 and 2, which includes your supply chain, how your products are used, and where they end up. So energy monitoring may have a limited use here, but they can still play an important role. See, if you were to measure the amount of energy that went into creating your products accurately, and then this trend caught on and everyone did it up and down your supply chain, each product would have a set carbon price tag, which could then be more easily accounted for. All of this can help with the carbon accounting process, but it can also inform you if it's possible to make changes to reduce your emissions, because you can't manage what you can't measure. Ultimately though, energy monitoring is just a data tool. It provides a clear picture of your energy usage profile, but remember, data is only as useful as the way that you present it. If I gather lots of energy monitoring data and I make a graph, then all I have is a graph. It's important to use the output of energy monitoring to create some decision-ready data. If only someone had made a video on decision-ready data in the past. Wow, I'm promoting a lot of our old videos in this episode, but my point still stands. If you want to save money or accurately account for carbon, then you need to plan for success and set up how you're going to display your data first. Then once you've done that, energy monitoring will be the input that completes the puzzle. And if you need help crafting a business case for energy monitoring, or you'd like some guidance on what other data to highlight to enrich your visuals and craft an effective action plan that saves you both cash and carbon, then reach out to us here at Copernicus Technologies Limited. We have the skills and the tech to provide you with an effective energy monitoring installation and the experience to know how to create effective dashboard outputs for a comprehensive energy profile. So click the link in the description or check out our website. In the meantime, monitor your energy to stay current, and remember that Luke's looking out for you. Catch you in the next one.